Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. This is James, the Ghost Set Killer, and this is Put 'em on the Glass podcast. Today is the most famous guest we've had by far on this show. I am super excited, super pumped that he even answered my damn email. So who is today's guest?
Oh, that would be Eric the car guy?
Eric the car guy. That's your cue.
Hey, it's slippery on the glass. I'm having trouble standing.
Yeah, right? So for all of you wondering, in our part of the world, we got like 16 inches of snow. It's negative degree temperatures. It's cold as hell. And you've all seen Eric's little reels that have come out over the last few days. Your little tractor with to plow your driveway and stuff like that. We've all watched your Shop of Innovations, I'm sure. And then the Jaded Mechanic podcast just really like stood out to me because something you said there that really struck a nerve with me, because the auto glass industry, you and I have discussed in the pre-show, was the hackery a little bit, but was you get angry when someone calls you fast. Go ahead and dive into that for a little bit, if you wouldn't mind.
Well, I'm older now, so I'm not as quote unquote fast as I used to be, especially getting up off the floor. But I when I was at the dealership, and I think a lot of dealership mechanics have gone through this kind of thing, especially when I was there in the late 90s and early 2000s, there was a lot of service work. So we were doing a lot of the same thing over and over again. And the term would come up, oh, you got that done really fast. And in my mind, it was like that felt like I was cutting corners by being fast. And I didn't like that. I kind of bristled at that. What I felt I was efficient. And I developed that efficiency through practice, through doing the same thing over and over, trying to, find the tool that works for this thing, knowing what tools I needed for the job. And I'd lay them all out on my tool cart so I'd know exactly where that was. In fact, in chefs and cooking, they have something that they have a layout. So if you're a chef and you're in a restaurant or something like that, there's a layout to like where the garlic is and where the onions are and where, everything is that they use to go in while they're cooking. And I believe, I'm probably going to mispronounce this, but I believe the term is called mise en place. And that is so that the chef can come in and be organized and efficient and do everything, that he needs to do in a short period of time. Efficiency, not speed. So I try to follow that philosophy with my repairs and my service work. And like I said, having everything laid out that I knew I was going to need for the job, and then doing the job as efficiently as I can, because let's face it, the flat rate game is a game. You're fighting against the clock for your paycheck. So you've got to try to make the most out of every day that you can if you're an industrious type like I was. And I really wanted to try to make sure that not only I had my ends met, but if I could have a little bit extra to buy a little beer at the end of the week, that'd be great. So you're always scrambling, you're always trying to do the best you can. But I think if you're going fast, you're cutting corners. You're trying to like do too much in too little time. But if you're efficient, you've got a plan, you've got a layout, you've got a rollout, you've got a program. And if you follow that program, then you can do things quote unquote fast, but in essence, they're efficient, not necessarily fast. And I hope that describes it like you wanted it.
No, absolutely. That was like laid out. And I never thought about the chef, and because I'm a national trainer, and I talk to techs all the time about being efficient instead of fast, because you'll walk out and it's like, why are you cutting that corner? Like that's something that needs to be, you need to wait the flash time. There's such thing as like solvent pop and re-wetting a surface and everything that goes into the whole chemical game that we're part of, which holds the windshield, back glass, not so much door glasses, they're mechanical bolt ends, but like that holds it into place. And so you're cutting a corner that could potentially damage somebody because you're trying to be quote unquote fast. Now, you were in a dealership, and not too many shops do a paper part, kind of like a flat rate, kind of like what you're talking about a little bit, because paper part's not exactly flat rate, but a few shops do that. And a few shops have, you'll have your hourly until you surpass that with the parts that you put in. But I was thinking, when a young tech comes in, for you, a young Eric the car guy came in and wanted to make that extra money, how did you get the practice when you've got a bunch of work bearing down on you and you need to become efficient. Like, was it a scramble? Was it anxiety? Did you finally just say enough's enough? I'm going to go as fast as I need to, and all that work can pile up. I'll get to it later.
Um, I I've always been kind of an independent person, so I would look at what other people would say to me and tell me to do, and in some ways kind of ignore them because some of what they were saying, it was the tone of which they were saying it. It's like, you're not worthy, new kid. You got to prove yourself. You got to step up. And frankly, I kind of see where they come from because not every new person is going to work out. And sometimes a new person can come in and actually create a bunch of work for the people that are already there. So I can understand how there might be some conflict. But I'm going to encourage those older techs that are out there to give everyone a chance because that was you at one point. And if you give them the chance and if you help guide them rather than belittle them or berate them because they're not doing things the way that they're supposed to be doing them, I think that's a much more effective approach. I mean, yeah, it's fun sometimes to make fun of people and all that kind of thing. But when you're young and you're starting out, you're very impressionable. And if you're coming into a place and the people that you're working with are hostile right from the get just because you're new, it's hard to work through that. So for me, I just basically said, screw you guys. I'm going to do my thing, despite the fact that we were on a team system. So I wasn't truly working alone and being flat rate. What I was doing was actually helping others. So eventually it got to the point where I had proved myself and I eventually became the quote unquote team leader of that team, which meant that whenever something bad happened, I got yelled at. That's the only difference. So it's a question of perception. It's a question of accountability, but I think you're really accountable to yourself more than anything. And if you keep that focus on you and try to ignore the noise that's happening in the shop, and by the noise I mean those people saying things about you and what you're doing and all that. If they're trying to be helpful, sure. Like look, man, if you do this, then you're not going to have to worry about a comeback. And that's great information to have from those people that have been doing it a while. That's the kind of thing to pass on to try to, help them along rather than try to give them a trial by fire and see if they survive.
Well,
That's my opinion anyway.
well, the comeback thing right there, what you stated was like, it really just resonated with me because, like, we're dealing with comebacks and warranty issues and rates that are higher than what we would like to see. And, man, do you think that even though it's your warranty, that it starts with the elders in the shop and it starts with, a shop team accountability to help everybody's comebacks come down, kind of like make a sense of pride to it instead of a sense of like, fuck it?
I think that's the culture of the shop. And I think that's critical if you're going to be a successful shop. I've been to shops that are not successful and they have a similar culture to what you described. And the successful shops that I've seen, people are working together. They're getting things done. And they're not working against each other. It's not a pride thing. It's hey, let's make some money. Let's get this done.
Okay, yeah, I like that. A team
You
hustle.
know?
Yeah, a
Yeah.
team hustle.
It's
Everybody's
it's
getting
it's
paid.
not it's not I'm better than you. I've been doing this forever and you don't know what you're talking about kind of thing. That's counterproductive in my mind. But if you're like, "Hey, we got this to do. We got these problems to solve. That's the key word there. We have these things to do. We have these problems to solve. Let's work together as a unit and conquer it." Like maybe somebody's better at one part of things. Like you had mentioned earlier, you may not be as good as diagnostics or some of these other things. Well, if you had somebody working beside you that was good at those things that could help guide you through that, that would ultimately make you better. And perhaps there's something that you have that could benefit them. That's what I'm talking about, sort of a cross pollination that can happen in a shop because everybody's got different skills. Everybody's got different things that they're interested in or good at. And I think if we play to those skills and work our problems using those skills will be much more effective than if we try to all work against each other.
Yeah, bring everybody up instead of, just
Yeah.
one person. Yeah, I love
Yeah.
it. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, if
Uh,
you're working under the same roof, I strongly recommend that approach.
so I know you mentioned it a little bit and it's been mentioned on other podcasts, mainly in the mechanic space, not so much in our space. I'm trying to change that the vernacular around that, but because I have a lot of professionals in my family and adult life, what you call professionals, what are deemed professionals in society, the stigma of the kids that get into these trades or these roles are the lower than blue collar, not really professional workers. How do you take a young person who's been beat down their whole life come into this world that we're in and then treat it like it's a profession, not just a paycheck. What's your advice to that?
Uh, I don't know if there's much you can do about somebody's personality and their ideas coming into a situation other than create the situation you want and have them grow into that. You can tell people things all day long and talk all day long, but I think it's actions ultimately that people respect and eventually respond to.
So if
Because
your shop's professional, then they'll act professional.
I believe so. Yeah, it's like kind of one of those if you build it, they will come kind of things. I think if somebody new walks into a shop and everybody's being professional, they're going to try to conform to that. But if it's a chaotic mess and you've got, so and so arguing with so and so and there's friction, there's contention, there's that kind of thing happening in the shop. If it's me, especially if I'm younger, I'm going to do what I can to avoid that. And I'll avoid that in a couple of ways. I'll avoid that by not asking questions when I feel like I might need to ask questions because I don't want to, poke the bear. And I also think that I'm not going to devote myself to the place as much because I feel separated from that. So I want to feel a part of a place that I'm working. I want to contribute. I don't want to be, just somebody that is doing all the crap work getting yelled at because they're new.
Okay. So almost like if it's a professional looking shop, you walk in and, like I try to explain like I'm not sure if have any experience in this or not, but like the early 90s, all the way up until the 90s, early 2000s, the tattoo world was very intimidating. It was very, you don't go in there because of but then shop owners started transforming that to where now your mom will walk into a tattoo shop, feel comfortable and get a tattoo. Like the shop environment needs to morph into that. So if you're walking in and you're applying to a place that looks like a grease monkey, kind of like dingy, dark, everybody's arguing feeling, that's the impression you're going to get, and that's what you're going to project forward. But if you walk into it's nice, bright, open, kind of like a dealership, you may actually take yourself more serious and your craft more seriously. Because I think myself personally, my thoughts are if you look at what you do as a profession, you will take it more seriously and you will be less likely to cut those corners, even when in a hurry. But that could be just my naivety. I'm not really sure about that part.
Well, okay. Could you just clarify that a little bit? Like, is that advocating? Like, what are you advocating there?
I'm advocating for shops to step up their game so the techs coming into this can actually have it easier to take pride in what we do and act more professional and be the person that could go out and speak to a customer and speak to the problem, articulate because they feel comfortable in the work environment, not into they're not working into a dirty, like grungy, like standoffish environment that a lot of the shops have. Unfortunately, there's a lot of shops I wouldn't even want to walk into because just driving by, I'm like, ew, and I'm not the most like upstanding looking guy, but like that's, when I see a shop like that, I'm like, yeah, I ain't even stopping.
Well, maybe more specifically, I'm asking about the tattoo angle that you started with.
Oh, okay, the tattoo angle. Okay, so the tattoo angle. I was a '80s kid, always wanted them, but everybody was like, "Those are dark, dingy. You're gonna get hepatitis. Everybody in there's intimidating. They're gonna fight you. You're gonna go in there. You're gonna be, belittled and talked down to, and they're gonna be ignored, and everything's dirty." And then, about the early 2000s, mid 2000s, like the generation that I was from, my friends started tattooing, they decided that we're going to, get health inspections. It's going to be a nice, bright, open, inviting for people to come in and feel comfortable, whether they're a tattoo artist and want to get into the industry or they're a customer coming in and feeling comfortable in that environment. Because before
I understand. Okay.
you wouldn't feel comfortable in that
Yeah, I
environment
get it.
in the past. That was my tattoo analogy that I
Okay.
kind of lead people into. And I do have a hard time sometimes explaining my ideas because the way they come out of my head. So I do
No,
apologize about that.
no, it's not you. I was just trying to get clarity on that because what I'm envisioning is some dude covered with tattoos coming out to tell you what's wrong with your car and being intimidated by that.
Yeah, that's
When
another
I
thing. Yeah, that's another thing.
that's where
So
I went with it. But then I'm thinking, in today's world of man buns and tattoos, I don't really see that as resonating in the same way as it once did. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, you go and get a cup of coffee, it's some dude with a face tat. It's, and
Yeah.
no big deal. Like, well, me
Yeah.
growing up, yeah, that was a little weird, and I didn't see that all the time. But I went to art school, so you're going to have to work pretty hard to like put me off with your tattoos and your face that looks like you fell in a tackle box. That's that doesn't affect me. That's just a person.
Yeah.
But
No, I
I
agree. But
think
no, I
I
was
think
going
it's
more with the
even
shop environment.
right. But even if you are covered in tattoos and you've got piercings everywhere, if you're professional, you're professional. And that's what I meant when I said, we live in a world of tattoos and man buns now. And that's fine as long as you're professional. Like if you treat your customers with respect and you try to clearly articulate what the issue is and what it's going to cost, and you do your best to stick to that cost. I think the thing that drives customers away more than anything from any repair shop is the unexpected cost. And the more you can get ahead of that, the better. And it's going to happen. Don't think that you're going to be able to make an estimate for a customer and it's always going to be bang on every time, because once you start taking things apart, well, things can change. But if you let the customer know that going in, oh, by the way, we could get in there, we could find this, and it could cost this. The more you prepare them, the more they're prepared for the situation, the better off they'll be. Because then they can make an informed decision. If they're on the fence and they're looking at spending $2,000 on a repair of that vehicle. And that $2,000 could actually turn into $4,000. But if they knew that ahead of time, they could say, well, maybe this isn't worth investing $4,000 into now. Maybe my money could be better spent on spending $4,000 on a down payment on something else rather than trying to keep this alien thing going on. And that's what I think at the end of the day, no matter what you're doing, whether it's glass, whether it's repair, whether it's detailing, you have a relationship with your customer and you give them what they're coming to you for, and you do that to the best of your abilities, and you won't go looking for customers, you won't go looking for profit, you will probably be struggling to keep up with the business that you have. I just feel that way. It's just treating people with basic respect. I don't care if you're covered with tattoos and all that other stuff. If people can get over that and just look at your professionalism, then that's where I think we need to be. That's where I think we'll be successful.
That's beautiful because yeah, as someone who is, fully sleeved and I don't have the piercings or anything anymore, but big thing for me was making sure when I did approach the public as before now, obviously the last 7, 8 to 10 years been a little different, was I made sure, uniform, button down uniform with long sleeves, and I'd always go out. But setting the expectation that you were talking about is very important, especially in auto glass when we're dealing with corroded vehicles. Anything that's like 5 years old or older, I always try to, as a technician, I always try to set, even if the front office didn't set it, I always try to talk to the customer before I start on the vehicle. Just kind of like, hey, I'm James. I'm going to be your technician today. If you don't mind, let's do a walk around pre-inspection. Just kind of check out the vehicle. Oh, this is a, 2018. Well, just to let you know, we're in Ohio, Rust Belt. There's a possibility of corrosion, especially if someone's been here before. Want to let you know if that's something we run into, we will stop right away, bring it to your attention, just kind of, give them the whole song and dance. But if you don't set that expectation and then you get someone's windshield out and you can't put it back in because it needs body work, well, that leads to a really, really uncomfortable conversation then. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And that's exactly the kind of thing I'm talking about. And that's the kind of professionalism I think that helps businesses grow and helps develop customer trust, because ultimately I think that's what we're up against. We're up against customers who are not going to trust us from the get. And why should they? The news is peppered with just all these stories of I went to the mechanic and blah, blah, blah. I read a lot of those stories and I think to myself, man, all of this could have been prevented if they had just said at the beginning, hey, we could run into this, or this could be an issue, or, it seemed that things got adversarial at some point where there was a breakdown in communication. But I think if
Mm.
people know at the onset that they're looking at spending a lot of money, they're gonna have to take that pill early. It's not going to be like, oh, well, here, swallow this little piece of glass now, and I'm going to bring you another one in a couple of hours after I take your car apart.
Yeah, and also they're coming to you. They're coming to you because they have to. They don't want to. They're not
Yes.
coming to you just because,
No.
like, hey, you're a cool guy. I'm going to go ahead and have you change my windshield out, or have you do my brakes, or have you do. No, they're definitely coming to you because they need you. And you're right. It's the perception in our world by customers is, you know, don't get the factory windshield changed out at all costs because it will leak. You know, if someone replaces that window, it will leak, and that's one of the stigmas we fought for a while. Now another one is that you're going to get your car's going to come back worse than what than what you left it is another one that we're fighting in our industry, because of kind of like what we talked about the hacks. So being in the world you're in, you had Rich Kiss on your YouTube channel, from Kiss Auto Glass, and that was like one of the, like you and I talked was one of the first like real like, hey, this is the right way to do it. This is the and at the time that video was shot, that was 100% the correct way to do it with the tools we had and everything that was going forward. So was that an idea that you thought would take off?
Actually, Rich reached out to me and asked if he could do a video. And I thought to myself, well, I haven't seen one of these videos out there on windshield installation. I'm not a glass expert, but it would be great to have an expert that I could follow around and show all the parts of windshield installation that are important to making it so that it doesn't leak, making it so that it's installed correctly and doesn't come back and doesn't break or any of the other things that could possibly go wrong in that scenario. And I thought he did a very good job. I thought he gave a lot of really great information, and that windshield was great. I can't remember what that was on, but it was on one of my vehicles, I think.
Okay, so that's what I was sitting here thinking. I was getting ready to ask you. It was a Honda, and it was the it's not the Pilot, it's the other SUV, the boxier one. What was that? What is that? A Honda. Oh, my
No,
goodness.
was it my Odyssey? It might have been my
No,
Odyssey.
no, it
No.
wasn't the Odyssey. It was I remember those side moldings are terrible on those, and it looks like a crayon box driving down the road. A Honda
CRV?
Element, is that?
What Element?
Yes,
Yeah.
I believe it was the Element. Yes, I believe it was the Element. And it's got those side moldings. You got to kind of rock backwards, rock
Yeah.
forward, and then smack. And it's a two-part. It's actually a two-part side clip that come off, and then you got to remove them, put them back on, and then they slide. Oh, yeah. So I was like, dude, you chose that one of the ones that it's one of the harder ones as far as getting the moldings off. Obviously, the cowl panel comes off easily. You don't have a rear view mirror because it's attached to the roof, and like it was like. I was like, dude, you're gonna do that one? All right, like that's another reason why it intrigued me. I was like, huh, you couldn't have picked a Toyota Camry, huh? All right.
It wasn't me that did the picking. I think it was just I don't remember how all that came together, but I do remember Rich being directly reaching out to me, and then I think that might have even been my Element.
Yeah.
So
Oh, he did a great job. He primered, he waited his flash times. He did deliver a lot of great information. Um, and at the time, because I believe he was using DuPont, or maybe it was Essex at that point, but I believe he was using DuPont, and he followed the DuPont directions to a T. Because I watched it and was obviously, as a glass guy, we wanna critique it a little bit.
this
Like,
is great feedback. Keep going. I am enjoying hearing this.
oh,
But keep going.
okay. Yeah, you like critique it a little bit, and it's like, okay, when he was coming across the top of the pinch weld, he did have his gun less than a 90, and so that was a little pet peeve of mine. There was a few times that I'm like, hey, I should be wearing nitro gloves, but at this point, but we like to critique a little bit, just because that's what it makes us feel a little superior to somebody that's on a very popular YouTube channel and doing all this. So we're just kind of like, oh man, who's this guy? But he did a great job. I like the fact that you guys set the windshield together. That was kind of interesting because I was like, is he just gonna? Because he doesn't have a setting tool. Is he just gonna? Huh? All right, but he did hand it over to you, and you guys set it in the hole, which was interesting and cool to see because there's nothing better than a two-person set. Even the one-man setting tools, a two-person set. Now I wouldn't ask any customer but you really to set the windshield because you've been around cars and you understand. I'm not going to ask my customer that's this person I don't feel could actually catch the glass and it would be all wobbly arm and stuff, but
Yeah.
it was a great, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, he used a long knife to trim the bead down, which is something I don't do anymore. I use scrapers, but it was a practice at that time that video was shot. That video was shot a long time ago. Was that, man, when was that? Was that 2010?
Maybe, I don't remember. Well, I was in the newer shops. It would be later than 2010. It would
Okay.
probably be like 13 or 14, I'm thinking.
Okay, so still 13 and 14. I mean, those tools were starting to really make the impact on the industry around that time. The long knife and the cold knives were still like the main thing to use. especially with trimming down. Now we got wire tools with wing blade scrapers and flat scrapers to try to minimize the damage we do around the pinch weld, so we don't expose those pieces of metal that we have to seal off. Because as soon as you expose that metal, the humidity starts just grabbing and it starts exchanging ions. So the corrosion started. You got to seal it off as quick as you can, because a lot of them have corrosion inhibitors, I think it may be called, into the paint and everything. And once you get past it and you're exposing the shiny metal, you definitely want to seal them off. But you want to create least amount of damage. So the sharper the tools, the more damage for potential you have. I know you want sharp tools, but and so, but at the time that was done, it was an amazing example of how not to be a hack and have the hackery. He took the cowl panel off. He didn't do the wiper salute. So it was an amazing, I was actually very, very impressed. And I was like, okay, this is cool. And then, obviously watching the rest of your videos and being a fan and just like, okay, I was waiting for that next glass video. I'm not even going to lie to you. I was waiting for the next one. Like, when's he going to have him come in and do like a Ridgeline? Or when's he going to come in and have him do like a ProMaster, one of the bigger ProMaster vans or something like that, just so we could see. But we have our YouTube channels out there. But when you talk to Rich again, just tell him that kudos. It was a great job. And thank him for, bringing that to your attention, to have it on such a publicized channel, because general public watch your channel, because it's for the DIYer, it's for entertainment, for people like myself. But the more information we get out there, the less likely we're going to be to call that company that's going to do that windshield in 20 minutes, do the wiper salute, scratch all the way around, not primer, slap it in the hole and go, and then they're not safe, and then they're calling back because it's leaking, and that company no longer exists. It's a laptop company. So kudos to both of you for that, because it brings it to the general public's knowledge for that. So thank you for that. I'm going on a rant, and I apologize. This show's about you.
No, thank you, because I see my job as an extension of what I mentioned earlier in the conversation, which is helping the customer understand the problem. So even if you're not going to repair it yourself and you're watching my videos, my hope is always that if you were a customer and you were faced with having to replace a windshield or an engine or something major on your vehicle, that you might want to educate yourself further on what that might involve. And perhaps you come across one of my videos, and I'm hoping that I'm able to articulate the problem well enough to where people either understand it better or, well, just that in and of itself. Okay, now I understand why I have to spend $3,000 to fix this. Rather than somebody came to me and said, this is going to be $3,000, and I'm trying to wrap my head around why. Well, if they spend 20 some minutes watching a video of me doing the actual thing, and they're like, oh, that's why.
Yeah.
That's my job. That's how I see my job. If nothing else, helping people do it themselves, but also helping those people who may not want to do it themselves understand what's involved, so they can either give the thumbs up or thumbs down on a job that may need to be done to one of their vehicles.
Well, that and in the auto glass industry, I'm sure it's the same way in the world you live in. We're fighting the bottom feeders of they're going to charge $25 over the cost of their materials to get the job, and not do the job exactly how it's supposed to be done. So it's putting people, when the airbag goes off, the windshield goes flying, you're not seatbelted in, you're out of the car, all that stuff. So we're fighting that.
Well, this is, again, what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to put it out there that if this isn't done properly, the windshield's a structural component of the vehicle. I mean, it's important. It's not just keeping the bugs out of your face. It's important. But yeah, and again, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to say, yeah, windshields are important, and installing them properly is also important, or else.
Yes, and when they see your video and they're like, well, why is this guy, $500 for this windshield replacement, and this guy's $99? It starts that conversation in their head. Well, wait a second, that's too big of a gap. Let me see why.
Well, and that's an excellent question. And I think anybody who purchases anything in this day and age is going to have to ask that question. Why does this cost $500 and this costs $100? And I need the thing. I want to pay $100. I don't want to pay $500. Why do I need to pay $500? You need to justify that. You need to justify why you're above the bottom feeders and all the other people. Well, you could say, I don't know how many comebacks the quote unquote bottom feeder has had, but I've had 2 in the past month. And I took care of both of those. Ask them that same question. How do you handle comebacks? Maybe that's the question to ask if you're a customer and you're going to a place for the first time. Like, how many comebacks have you had for this in the past month? That, and being able to answer that honestly. Like, if it's 0, that might be suspect.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's very rare that I'm perfect at anything
Yeah.
ever. So even even after like all the effort and all the everything that I put into something, if I've removed 1,000 fasteners during the process of that repair, that's 1,000 instances that could have gone wrong. So there could be something in there, or there could be a part that I purchased that somebody else, far away was assembling it, and maybe they didn't do something right, or maybe the machine that put it together didn't do something right, or maybe the materials weren't right for that particular whatever. The point is, my hands are on it, so no matter what happened, that's my responsibility to take care of that quote unquote comeback. So I try to do that to the best of my ability. It's at the end of the day, I think ultimately what we're doing is customer service. And
Mm-hmm.
if we do a good job at that, everything else I think falls into place.
Beautifully said. Now, I did promise you I wouldn't keep you too long. We're at the 30-minute mark. So, everyone, go. This has been great. This is just thank you for doing this so much. It means a lot to me
Thank
that you're
you.
doing it, and it's awesome. So, everybody, don't hang up when we're done because I gotta let everything upload or whatever. But everybody, Eric the Car Guy on all the socials. YouTube channel is my go-to. His Facebook little reels every day is just a little bit of a pick me up sometimes because it's like, hey, this guy's battling the same things I am, and he's still positive and got a smile on your face. Your beard game's pretty strong too, so I can't say much about that. I got the gray all through my shit, so like it's I'm looking kind of, But anyways, everybody, thank you so much for listening to this, watching to this, and just like always, the best way to support the show is believe in yourself, believe in our craft, and go out there and do the best you can.
Thank you so much.